A very popular tool for measuring an education system's success is the Program for International Student Assessment. Finland, with a small population of 5.5 million, is consistently one of the highest performing countries. They are extremely innovative with regards to education, with amazing results. They have better standardized tests because they only have one, which is taken after high school and is graded by teachers and not computers. They spend little time on homework, only about 2.8 hours a week, where Americans spend about 6.1 hours a week. Tuition is free for not only bachelor's degrees, but also master's and doctorates. Their schools are routinely visited by members of other countries to try and get a grasp on how they are doing so well. Also, teachers in Finland are revered and respected, similar to doctors. More on this later. How did it get so good? Well, Russia controlled Finland for over 100 years before any education reforms happened. The school system in Finland mirrored that of Russia and were even forcibly taught in Russian. Not until 1919 did Finland start to see change by declaring independence from Russia. Much to Russia's chagrin, they kept trying to attack, but eventually gave up due to the events of World War II. But anyways, even before that, this brought on education reform in the name of the Compulsory Education Act of 1921, which paved the way for what you see happening in Finland today. Because of the Compulsory Education Act of 1921, now all Finnish children were guaranteed an education, which expanded even to the most remote municipalities. By the 1930s, 90% of Finnish children were attending schools. After a few decades, the centrally controlled education system was moving towards decentralization, giving municipalities and schools more decision authority. Secondary schools became more common. Vocational education expanded. New higher education institutes were being created, and a swift rise in the level of education throughout the country. By the 1970s, education reform started to push towards more equal access for students, no matter what their social, economic, linguistic, racial, or geographical circumstances are. At the same time, the requirements for teachers were set higher. They created a new curriculum for anyone wanting to be a teacher that mixed theory with hands-on experience. Teachers were now required a master's degree. Even today, only 10% of students who apply to teacher education programs are admitted. Although, with less teaching hours than most Western countries, Finnish teachers are still paid around the same as most Western countries, even though they are lifted on a pedestal with doctors and lawyers. Nowadays, Finnish students score higher than most of their peers on international assessment tests, which is really great considering they don't do any homework, or barely any. Also, they put a much bigger emphasis on music, art, and outdoor activities, and they still do so well on those international tests. So, one of the ways Finland stays ahead, why do so many people from other countries come visit their schools, and how they remain atop the heap, is their willingness in constant evolving their system. In 2016, the Finnish Ministry of Education started a new national curriculum framework, which introduced something called phenomenon-based teaching, which basically gets classes involved in more pertinent subjects such as climate change and community. Another cool thing about the phenomenon-based learning is that students are directly involved with the planning of the classes and also have a say in the assessment of what they have learned. After so many years ranking at the top, why would Finland feel the need for constant change and reform? Why fix something that clearly isn't broken? Well, the head of curriculum development said it best here. We are often asked why improve the system that has been ranked as top quality in the world. But the answer is, because the world is changing. We have to think and rethink everything connected to school. We also have to understand that competencies needed in society and in working life have changed. So in conclusion, by starting to focus on education way back in 1921 with the Compulsory Education Act, and constantly evolving, I can't see Finland falling far from the top anytime soon.